Good morning. Hello, it's Lizzie. And I wanted to talk to you today about fear. I'm finding personally that every day, the more I learn about sort of what's going on in our world, I have a process of going into some fear and then having to come out of it and recenter. And I wanted to talk about that process because I'm in it every day, and it's really helpful. And unless you're already really good at this process, or another process for recentering in your own truth rather than fear, unless you're already really good at that, it's probably a helpful reminder. Because I think in general, most people are not taught that at a young age anyway. And it's really helpful because staying in fear can be really detrimental to your mental, emotional, spiritual, physical well-being. Can be just really not fun. So, 4 basic steps for dealing with fear. So step 1, and by the way, I'm not talking about like the kind of fear that saves your life because, you're scared you'll get run over by a bus, so you run away from the bus. That's helpful fear. I'm talking about fear where we get caught in our heads thinking about all the things that we hope don't happen or that we think are going to happen. Oh my gosh, the world's a disastrous place. The more fear there is, the more disastrous of a place the world will be. So our job is to reorient away from fear and to represent love and truth and empowerment, and to hold that energy in the world. Okay, so step 1 is always awareness. Any journey you're on, step 1 is awareness. So step 1 is recognizing when it's fear that's happening in your mind, recognizing that feeling of fear, recognizing when that's happening in you. So the second step, after you've recognized the fear, is garnering any kind of information that you can gather or garner that you can actually do something about, that is helpful information for you. For example, wow, this particular topic really inspires fear in me. It evokes fear in me. Or, wow, when I engage in this kind of conversation, that brings fear. Or, wow, this fear, really dates back to traumatic event in my life, or any information you can gather about the fear and yourself in relationship to the fear. Step 1, recognize fear. Step 2, gather the information you can gather. Step 3, take any actions that you can take. So for example, talking to the people in your life about the things that evoke fear in you and how you want to deal with that. Setting limits and boundaries on how you engage in information that makes you feel fearful. Working to overcome your fears if that's possible, if they're workable fears, if they're like logistical fears that you can working on them. And going back to the gathering information, other information you could gather would be like, what am I learning about how I interact with the world? What am I learning about how I interact with fear? What am I learning about myself? What am I learning about the world? So step 1, recognize the fear. Step 2, gather the information. Step 3, take any actions you can take. Step 4, reorient yourself. So the reorienting is going back to what you know to be true and beautiful, and where love resides in your body, the source of energy that you can tap into, reminding yourself of that. Now, that doesn't have to be any kind of esoteric spiritual practice or concept. That can be looking out at nature and remembering how beautiful our ecosystem is and how everything interacts with each other and supports each other, and the beautiful blossoming of flowers in spring, and how reliable that is. Like, that can be what you orient to. There is some order in this universe, in this world, on this earth, that just keeps working despite everything. And yes, maybe it's changing, but it's constant. It can be looking at your family members, your children, laughter, the sparkle in somebody's eye, and just remembering that joy exists. Or it can be more spiritual. It can be more about your personal spiritual beliefs, coming back to what you know and believe to be true and real and right and good in this world, and your trust and your faith in that. Any action that you take in the world is going to be more powerful when it's rooted in love and truth than when it is coming from fear. And so we can't escape fear because we're human, but we can really learn how to deal with it and understand its purpose, understand its role, its place in our experience in the world. And understand how it actually brings us back to that place of love. So when we are in fear, we don't want to be in fear. So when we recognize it, we gather our information, we take our actions, and then we reorient. It really allows us to... Fear inspires us to come back to truth, always. So anyway, those are just some of my thoughts on fear. So if you're dealing with fear, and I just feel like it's coming up so much right now, especially in our COVID environment and all the different views, what happens if people do this or don't do this, or what happens if the government does this or doesn't do that. And it's so easy to get sucked into fear basically at any moment of the day. And I hope that this little step-by-step method can help. All right, thanks so much. Have a beautiful day.